Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to part one of our three-part series this week about elevating your website. Today is tips, tricks, and common mistakes. Tomorrow we'll be covering UX, the basics of user experience. And Thursday we have SEO tips. So really exciting content we have for you this week. We're really excited that you are joining us today. First off, I want to let you know that today we actually already had the webinar, but as luck would have it, the recording didn't work. So, of course, things happen. And so you're getting the exclusive recording I am doing right now for everyone who registered, as this was promised that you would get a recording. But unfortunately, I do apologize. The Q&A session that we had at the end is long gone, and we do not have anyone logging in live right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some of the folks who were in the session with me, a couple of my colleagues who tuned in, if they can help me remember some of those great questions we had, and I will include some of the information about those questions and answers in the email we send as a follow-up. A lot of our questions were wonderful questions about Good Shuffle Pro, so I will be sure to include that information in an email follow-up since it will not be a part of this recording. So thank you again, though, for registering. Thanks so much to those who tuned in, and really excited to walk you through today some of the basics to work on elevating your website. My name is Karen Gordon. I'm the VP of Growth at Good Shuffle Pro, and I've had a lot of people asking recently, what does that mean? What does the VP of Growth mean? And it means that I run all of our business departments from a business growth standpoint. So I run our marketing, sales, customer success, and also provide the business angle in our product growth as well. So I have my hands in quite a few departments, and with that, I have a lot of opportunities to connect with our users. And one thing I hear folks say, or confess really, is that they haven't prioritized their online presence, which kills me. Hopefully, if you are attending this, or in this case of watching this recording, it's because you know that online presence is extremely important. And sadly, in the state of how things are currently with the virus, online presence is even more important because there are just less in-person interactions happening right now. So thankfully, a lot of people have been very savvy in using this tough time to get their ducks in a row, amp up their online presence. And that's why we wanted to take the time to say, hey, here are some really great action items for getting that going. So today we'll first address, for folks who are either building a new website, completely revamping, starting fresh, the common question is this something I should outsource, or is it something I should tackle myself? Then we're going to go ahead and give you fast 5 action items. If you're anything like me coming to webinars or courses, I always want to have things I can walk away with. And so we're going to give you some homework right off the bat. And then I'm going to walk you through the 10 most common mistakes that I see. Some are super quick fixes. Others are a little bit more in-depth, but I'm positive that you will all walk away with at least a couple of action items that will really elevate your online presence. And then at the end, I am sorry that we will not be having the live Q&A on this recording, but I will share my contact information, and please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions after the fact. If you want to shoot me a direct email, I'll have my information there at the end. So let's get started. The first fork in the road where we see folks get stuck is the question of, do I hire someone? Should I attempt to do this myself? And it really depends on a number of things. Obviously, there's a money cost versus time cost. That's always the number one factor in deciding if you want to outsource anything. But in sticking in the theme here a little bit about common mistakes or common traps people fall into, a couple that I see are, first, people will say, I'm not techie, so I need to hire someone. That's not exactly true. Companies like Squarespace have made billions of dollars off of making it easy to build a website. You really don't have to be techie anymore in order to build a great website, particularly not a pretty basic one. With that, one of the worst things I see is that people will hire someone and stay completely removed from the process. And then the developer builds something that is really techy, and then you can't ever make any edits. In fact, to me, this is one of the biggest scams out there. I've seen people who will hire a developer. The developer proudly builds it in something like Drupal, which if you don't know what that is, good. You really don't need to as an event business owner. But you can get a developer who's really proud to build something in a complex language, and then it's a language you don't even speak. So how are you supposed to ever make an edit? You can't. And that's where it feels kind of scammy to me, because now you are stuck paying to make even the tiniest edit on your website. So we'll talk through some tips about either hiring or doing it yourself. But as you can probably tell, one of the first things I'm going to tell you is that the goal should be to have a platform you are able to at least edit. Even if somebody else designs it, sets it up, helps get things going, you need to at least be able to edit your phone number or add something that says new COVID policy. Now, if you hire an expert, you should choose your platform first. WordPress, you'll hear, is pretty popular with website builders, but it's a little more complex than a Squarespace or a Webflow. So just make sure that it's something that you feel comfortable making those edits. But be sure, above all, that you decide what the site needs to do. So for example, we here at Good Shuffle Pro offer an amazing website wishlist integration. People love it because their clients can choose some of the items that they want for an event, and instead of just emailing it to them, it will build a proposal in their system in Good Shuffle Pro on the back end. So this is a huge time save and a really neat feature. But we work with just about every platform except for Wix. And we've had a couple people who went and decided to build everything first and then called us and said, okay, Karen, I'm ready to install my integration now. I said, why didn't you call me first? You could have built it on truly anything else. So just know that if you are working with a software like Good Shuffle Pro, if you have some sort of function you need your website to do, you need to start with that functionality. You need to start with the core thing you want your website to do for you before you pick the platform. You want to make sure it's going to work. And you also want to make sure whoever you're hiring understands how that works. So we had someone who was building or had a developer building something for them, and I offered a million times. I said, hey, here's our quick guide on how it works, or did you want to jump on a call if you have any questions? And he was very standoffish. I understand, I know how it works. But long story short, he had built other websites for other businesses using a very different integration and just assumed that he would have to build an individual page for every inventory item. So he went and used something like a WooCommerce where he had taken this vendor's inventory and built individual pages for each one, not realizing our integration automatically does that. So at that point, it was too late. He'd already spent these hours and he wanted to then he wanted to bill the vendor for all the hours he had worked, even though he'd done something completely unnecessary. So again, you want to make sure that you understand what you want your website to do, make sure that the developer or the person you're hiring understands what it needs to do, and that any integration you're using, that everyone's on the same page. I always say, take advantage of people's customer service and customer success and say, talk to my developer directly if you need to. Because the last thing you want is to be paying for somebody to do something if they don't really know what they're doing, and they're going to go ahead and waste all this hourly billing. Finally, it's also ideal to have someone who has built a website for someone in at least a similar industry as you. You want someone who really kind of understands how people shop in your industry. For example, we've seen rental clients who have developers who don't really understand why booking a rental is different than shopping on Amazon.com. And anyone watching this is likely in the events industry in some capacity and can understand why, of course, it is very different. If you're on the event rental industry, you're going to need to know if you have enough inventory for the date that they're selecting. You're going to want to probably upsell them on add-ons to the items they're selecting. These are all part of the process. But, like this guy who went with this WooCommerce thing, I think he just assumed that it, was just like maybe a regular e-commerce business he was working with. So there's a huge advantage of working with somebody who kind of understands how your industry functions. Another great thing about working with someone who gets your industry is they may have cool suggestions you haven't thought of. And isn't that the whole reason to work with an expert, is to get their ideas as a developer, as a web page designer? For example, one of our preferred partners, someone that we work with who designs websites, who knows our integration really well, did this awesome thing where their client, you can see I have a picture of it here, their client had been featured in a bridal magazine. So of course they wanted to show this off on their website. So the developer had the idea, well, what if we did a landing page where we had all of the featured images from the wedding, where we had the quotes from the bridal magazine, where we showed all the services that we got, we did planning and rentals and design. And then at the bottom, they had it say "Party Like the Flippins," which is the name of the couple that got married, which I think is the cutest name. And they featured the actual inventory that they'd used for this event, so that you could actually add those things directly to your wish list as you were looking at this gorgeous bridal magazine feature. So it turned out wonderful. I've now suggested it to tons of other folks, but that was just a perfect example of why you might want to work with somebody who's worked in the industry before, because this designer, this developer, knew that that's sort of how brides or grooms or people planning an event might shop, is that they'll see the inspiration from an event that you've done and quickly want to have similar looking items. Now, if you do it yourself, same thing as your first step that I'm going to tell you with the expert, which is picking your platform. And not just picking your platform, but testing your platform. I can't tell you how many people say things like, oh, well, I went with WordPress because someone told me it was the best. Well, best for whom? If you want something that has tons of options for plugins and a million customizations, sure. But if you want something with maybe a little more built-in security and more of just plug-and-play experience, I'd probably recommend Squarespace. Plus, you just need to like the feel. So use those free trials that these platforms offer so that you can click around and see what feels more intuitive to you. One of the biggest mistakes we see is really people just getting started on a rough foot. If you build your website on a less than great platform, you end up getting stuck of whether or not you want to start all over. We actually have a wonderful client. She built her website on a platform that's meant for photographers, but she's in florals and decor. And so now she's sort of hitting some limitations, and I feel so bad for her because of course she feels like, ugh, I don't want to scrap all this work that I've done, but she also knows it's not really the fit for what she's trying to do with her business. Another thing we pretty openly say is we are not huge fans of Wix. The reason that our integration doesn't work with Wix is the same reason a lot of integrations do not. They don't allow you to drop any custom code into your website, which means that you can only use an app or an integration from their app marketplace, which I think is pretty sneaky, right? I'm sure they get some sort of profit share where you can only select from very specific apps. Whereas if you do WordPress or Squarespace or Webflow or Weebly, these are still very templated, drag and drop type things. You don't have to be a coder to do them. But if you wanted to add a little snippet of code, like an integration oftentimes requires, you can just override with the code. So I think you should just make sure when you're looking what's going to have a lot of limitations. It might not be something that you need right away, but if you end up growing into a tool or another functionality and you're on a very limiting platform, you again are going to end up with that horrible feeling of feeling stuck. And then also feel like you can phase out approach, or have a phased approach rather, when you're rolling out your website. You can gradually roll out new things. Do not have an under construction website for months on end while you are perfecting things in little 15-minute intervals whenever you have the time. You want to get a basic template out with the absolute need to knows and get that live immediately. There is no reason to not have that live in under an hour. Then from there, you can phase in better design, more inventory as you add it, more testimonials as they come in, better SEO tools, which we're going to talk about on Thursday. Event people are perfectionists by nature. It's what makes us all so great at building beautiful events. But unfortunately, it can also get in the way of progress when we don't just get something live. And every day that you don't have something on your website, you're losing customers. Finally, I want to say that you can choose to manage your website and still outsource parts of this process. So maybe you hire someone to consult on the front end and help you design and structure your website. Or maybe you want to hire someone to set you up for success with SEO. You can absolutely choose to outsource these things and still maintain control overall. The goal here, again, is just to be able to at least make edits yourself, but that doesn't mean you have to take on everything. All right, so now that we've talked about getting your platform, about hiring an expert or doing it yourself, here are 5 things I want everybody to literally do as soon as you are done with this recording. I'm calling these not just the fast 5, I'm also calling them the face palm 5, hence the icon showing you a nice little face palm with 5 fingers, because they seem, maybe a little bit obvious to some people as I say them, but honestly, if you check your own website, I think you'll be surprised to find most people have at least one of these. And as a side note, when I told my team that the webinar recording didn't go through, they told me that that was my facepalm 5 for the day. So we can all have our facepalm moments. It's okay if you have one of these on your website. So the first is you need to show your location. I can't tell you how often someone signs up for a demo of our software and I go look at their website and see they do great event rentals, no clue where. I don't even know what time zone they're in for me to set up a call. So think about how that's affecting your SEO. When someone Googles wedding vendors in Charleston or DJs near me, and you don't have a location on your website, do you think it's possible that you're showing up? So 3 things to remember about the location. 1, make sure front and center. Someone should know as soon as they land on your website whether or not you service their area. 2 is contact and about pages. A lot of people will skip to one of those to see where you are. So it's great to have a nice about, that explains who you are. Make sure that you have the sort of basics of your location on there as well. And then to win SEO, you need to consider also what people actually call your area. As a great example, I live in Washington, D.C., and the DC metro area is oftentimes called the DMV, which is short for DC, Maryland, and Virginia, since the 3 are all very close to one another. So if you're in this area, you would want to make sure that you have on your website servicing the DMV for folks who might go ahead and search using that term. All right, number 2. Seems a little obvious, but define what you do. Think in terms first of what you do for them. So the first thing that someone wants to know, the first thing that all of us want to know when we visit a website is, what's in it for me? Something like Best Weddings isn't as good as brings couples' vision to life with decor and design services. It's much more clear and much more clear what's in it for me. Also, remember that they're coming fresh off a Google search probably. So ensure that the terms that they would use in that search are listed there. And we'll touch a little bit more on that later as well as on Thursday. But just as a quick gut check, I would say open up your website right now, take a quick look and think, is it really clear what and why? Next, remove dead links. If you have coming soon anywhere on your website, please just go to your website and enter that page into draft mode. I mentioned earlier this phased approach, which means slowly building and adding pages. It's totally fine. But you don't want to put up a page that is a placeholder because A, I promise it'll live there a lot longer than you care to admit. And B, think about the message that that sends to your client. It says, I started something, but I didn't finish it. not a great look. It's much better to have a simple, sparse even website until you have time to, let's say, add a blog, rather than blog coming soon, sitting there for ages on end. Also, if you're using a template, which again, most of those sites, the platforms I mentioned have all sorts of templates you can choose, Squarespace, WordPress, that's great. But just note that a lot of templates have placeholders built into them for things like social media. So they'll have those little social media icons. If you don't have a Twitter, let's say, just make sure that you remove the Twitter icon. Otherwise, it's going to be a dead link. And finally, test. Go through your website tonight. Click on absolutely everything. And if it is broken, fix it if you can. And if you don't know how or you can't, temporarily remove it until you can. These are not only bad for clients' experience, it's really bad for your SEO. Next up, you want to have a clear call to action, something that you're trying to get from them. Do you want them to reach out? Do you want them to build a wish list? Whatever you want them to do the most should be the biggest, most obvious button. Also, make sure you give them something to do immediately. You can't just say, call us if you don't answer your phone 24/7, which, by the way, I really hope you don't. But it's a terrible experience for the insomniac planner who's trying to get their event done at 4 a.m. to not have anything that they can do. At the very least, have a contact form. If you're in design, decor, or rentals, you should have a wish list. People want to take an action immediately, particularly the younger generation. Finally, give them a way to reach you. And in fact, you should give them several. So make sure you have your email, your phone number, and make sure you actually have those on every page. Because if you have this awesome page, like for example, the Flippin's wedding we talked about, and someone goes, oh, this is really what's selling me. I love this photo, this spread. I love what they did. You want to make sure that on every page they have that way to reach out. They have a call to action. They have contact information, that they're not lost when they're finding the thing that they love. Now, those are the Fast 5, aka the no more facepalm 5, that I want everyone to do today. Pretty straightforward. But without further ado, here are the top 10 mistakes we see all the time. Hopefully the top 10 mistakes that everyone watching this is going to now move away from. Number 10 is music on the site. You wouldn't believe how often I see it. Autoplay videos with sounds are also a hard no. Studies show people oftentimes are scrolling their phones in bed with a partner asleep next to them. So a loud video, not going to make them too happy. Similarly, if they're supposed to be working, but they're secretly planning their sister's baby shower, you don't want to be the one who's accidentally busting them with a loud blast of happy sound and songs. So no music, no autoplay. Now, number 9 is a pretty big one. The only reason I put it as low as I did on the list is because I'm hoping people know this one by now. But the majority of your users or your visitors are coming to your website on their phones. So you need to make sure that all of your website, not just your homepage, is completely mobile friendly. It is easy to navigate from any type of device. It's worth noting that some platforms and some plugins and integrations automatically do this. They have it built in to collapse into a smaller view. Others do not. So when you're looking at adding a plugin on a site, when you're looking at picking a template, make sure you check how it's going to look on any size device. Number 8 on the common mistakes. If you have Comic Sans anywhere on your website, please just delete it, please. Similarly, Sriracha is one I rediscovered recently, and it brought me back to this phase in elementary school when my friends started having computers to type up birthday party invitations, and they would all get very creative in their choice on font, which was very cute for an 8th birthday, but it's not so cute for your professional business. And speaking of creativity, obviously events are a creative industry, which is wonderful. But if you are too creative in describing what your company does or your personal title, you are just confusing your clients. An example I have and why I chose this particular picture is I knew a guy who was starting his own event planning and production company. And he decided to make his title conductor. He explained how he conducts everything within the experience, but what he was failing to think about was that nobody Googles best conductor unless this is what they're looking for. You really need to be thinking about that SEO at all times. And you also just need to remember, look, people have short attention spans. They don't want to read a whole paragraph just to understand why your title is what it is. They want to know what you do by looking at your title, by looking at your company description. We talked earlier about how it's totally fine and great to get help and to outsource your new website, but you need to be able to edit it. I can always tell who completely 100% outsource something because they've got broken links everywhere. They've got something that says coming in 2018. And it's heartbreaking because they probably spent too much money on a team that created some complex thing that they don't even have a password to get into. So, even, hey, if you don't want to maintain your site, that's fine too. There are wonderful companies. In fact, our guest speaker for tomorrow, if you're watching these as recordings, our guest speaker on the UX front, she, I know, offers packages where she does monthly maintenance for websites. A lot of people who will design your website will offer a monthly package. So you can also go the route of paying someone monthly. But again, even then, I would say you want to be able to make a fast change. The worst thing you can do is completely push it off your plate and then end up with something where what happens is these templates, these plugins, they all have updates. And so if a new update comes and you don't know how to log in to update the new template, it can actually break or ruin your entire page. Now, number 5 here, I mentioned the phased approach of website building. So don't worry at all if you just start with a couple of pages. That is totally fine. However, the goal should be to have multiple different pages. And this helps with a few things. 1, it makes it easy for someone on your main page to know where to go, to know, okay, I'm interested in this, so I should probably go to this page. 2, it helps you win the keyword game. If you have one page that lists that you do planning and rentals and design and some catering, that's great, but you're never going to win the keyword game with all of these varying services on one page. By breaking out landing pages, you can focus each on the various things that you offer. You can have a page that says event planning services in the DMV area and lists all of the things you do related to that part of your business. Plus, you can then also have a direct link from an ad or a social media post about that one service. And so if I were to say, even if I were to send an email to you and I knew you were specifically interested in planning, I can then send you directly to my page about that planning. Similarly, if I click on an ad about very cool bracelets, I don't want to go to a general landing or a general homepage for a jewelry store. I want that ad to take me directly to the page about the exact cool bracelets that I just saw. So you need to have a page that drives people based on their specific needs. One thing to avoid, though, is the temptation to just slap a bunch of keywords on a page. Google does not like this. And I promise your clients will not like this either. You don't want to have a page that talks about one service and then it's just a ton of bullet points and every single keyword stuffed into it. Of course, you have humans visiting your site. You need to use photos and use testimonials and really tell the story visually of why people should choose your services. Remember, this is the ever tough game that we all go through of this dance around trying to win the SEO game for the bots, but also win the hearts of your potential buyers. And in thinking about those buyers, one of the worst things that I see is a lack of pricing. Anyone who knows me at all will tell you this is one of my greatest passions. I have done speaking engagements specifically about this topic, so it's very hard for me to limit it just to one slide, but I will try and give you a few quick notes on why this is so important. You ready? Paper and pen? Here's why this is so important. One is impatience, which I mentioned earlier. It's more prevalent now than ever in the consumer. If someone is shopping your services and they can't find the main thing they're looking for, such as price range, that frustration is so negative with you, regardless of what your pricing is. Plus, they then resent you for wasting their time because they're searching all over for something and you're just not showing it to them. And speaking of wasted time, one of the biggest mistakes that both small business owners and salespeople in general make is wasting time on unqualified leads. So when people tell me, oh, I'm scared to show my pricing, they might not inquire because I'm too pricey, I say, good, that's a good thing. Do you want to waste your time with someone who is never going to be able to afford the prices that you've established for yourself? Also, by not putting pricing out there, you're giving the impression that there's room for negotiation. I hear event professionals of all types all the time who are annoyed by people trying to bargain with them. And actually, in the webinar earlier, I asked people to raise their hands if they get annoying clients who try to bargain with them. And almost every single participant's virtual hand went up. So, yes, it is annoying, but when you don't put a price out there, you're giving the impression there's room for negotiation. You're kind of, by being cagey about your prices, you're having people assume that it's just something that's not really established, it's not well set, and it's not really based on anything. We have also seen a correlation in people who don't show pricing getting more bad actors, meaning people who will dispute credit card charges, claim they never got their order, all of that kind of stuff. What happens is by delegitimizing your business on the front end, by not showing well-established prices, you're opening the door to these kind of shady shoppers. And finally, I get people who will say, well, I have a competitor down the street that undercuts my prices. Well, here's the thing. They can do that regardless of whether you have pricing on your site. The difference would just be that then you have somebody wasting your time, calling you, getting a quote, and then taking that quote down the street, having that competitor do it at a lower price and winning. And in that case, you've wasted all your time. So chances are that client is always, the client who's shopping for the cheapest price is always going to shop for the cheapest price. Chances are you're not in business because you have the literal lowest price in town. That's very rarely the case why people are booking with you. There are other reasons people choose to work with you. And your job is to put those reasons very clearly on your website. Which brings me to number 2, UVP. For those who don't know, another passionate topic of mine, unique value proposition, UVP. You all have one, and it can't just be does great events, because that's not particularly unique. It might be more like, we have the most well taken care of furniture rentals in the state of Kansas, or we provide full service events from design through execution, so you never have to lift a finger. I talk to folks all the time who tell me these great things about their business, and I regularly can't find that anywhere on their website. I was giving a lecture about transparent pricing a couple of years ago, and a woman stopped me and said, well, people are more willing to pay once they know me. I'm just very charming. Fine, I said, are you on your website? I mean, honestly, do you have videos of you interacting with clients, making them laugh? Do you have testimonials about how easy you are to work with? Because it's totally fine if you are part of the unique value. But again, if you're not showing that unique value on the site, of course you're scared to put prices. There's nothing that's correlating those prices with that value. Think about, as an example, when you see a restaurant's menu pricing online. You don't expect everywhere to have Applebee's pricing. You can tell by things like the branding on the site, if there are reviews from newspapers, if there's a 5-star review on Yelp. You can tell if they have unique food offerings that you don't usually see at other places. There are lots of things that provide value that people are willing to pay for when they're shopping, when they're going out to eat. But if I have a generic website that says, restaurant, it is good, we have Cobb salad, we've got burgers, $45 minimum per plate. Well, of course I'm going to wonder why the price is that when I don't see any value associated with it. So the problem is never a price. The problem is ensuring your price and your unique value align. As a side note, we are rolling out even more materials on some of these passions of mine: transparency, pricing, unique value props. So be sure that you're signed up for our mailing list so you can get more information as we continue to roll out more of this content. And now it brings me to number one. The biggest mistake we see is people who have no action for the person on your site to take. So let's say you've done everything else. You've story told about your successes. You've shown your unique value proposition. You've shown your value-based, very clear pricing. And now they're excited. You're it. They want to work with you. And then there's nothing for them to do. Maybe they can call a phone number, but again, what if it's 4 a.m.? Or what if it's Gen Z who apparently don't like talking on the phone? Have you given them a way to start the process of working with you from the comfort of their couch? And that's what something like Good Shuffle Pro with our website wishlist integration can help you do. Can make sure that they are actually taking that action while they're excited, and so that you can make sure you close that sale. If for some reason that's not for you, and I'm happy to talk to anyone offline about, hey, was this a right fit for our company? But if it's not the right fit for you, then at least have, a contact form. Not one with 7 zillion questions, please. People do not like that. But something to engage them, to make it clear where you can start the sales process. Because the worst thing you can do is get them all pumped up and then just to leave them flat with no way to get the ball rolling. Now, again, with this odd recording here, I'm going to go ahead and put a little plug in case you're viewing this before for our upcoming webinars. And if you are reviewing this at the end of the week, you can watch our recordings as well of our other 2 webinars. Our webinar on UX, user experience, if that's not something you're familiar with, don't let that intimidate you. All it really means is the experience your users have coming to your website. So things like extra landing pages so they know where to click, or making sure you have a very clear call to action. Some of the things we discussed here today on a very basic level, we'll be doing a little bit more of a deep dive tomorrow with Christy Glassick of Glassick UX. She's a dear friend of mine, and she's going to teach you all those basics. She's going to make sure that it's really easy for you to do with zero coding knowledge, how you can do things just like pick templates that are going to grab more of your leads, get more business. And then our SEO webinar on Thursday, that is going to be led by my colleague Carmen. We're going to dive into all the basics and understanding of what you need to do in order to get your website maximized. Now, even if you say, look, that's something I want to outsource, there's a lot of value to understanding the basics of these things. And I thought one of our users, Cam Petty, she owns beautiful event rentals in Dallas. Actually, I stole on this previous slide. This is from her website. I stole it from you, Cam Petty, if you're watching, because I love her website. I think her font and her branding is quite beautiful. But she has a podcast called Render Podcast, and I was a guest on it once, so you'll have to go check that episode out. And she just told this story that I've repeated a bunch since. I thought it was a great example. So she said when she was starting out her business, she paid an SEO firm. She paid them tons and tons of money. And then later, as she started to learn a little bit more about SEO, she realized they were doing a terrible job. She got a little wise to what they were doing. She fired them. And then she has since hired a firm for a fraction of the price who is doing way better. And how she got to that was she did some learning on her own. That's just a great example to me of she never had the intention of doing all of the legwork herself. She wanted to outsource that part of her business. But by knowing a little bit more about what it meant, how it works, she was better able to identify who was actually doing a good job. And now she's paying less to have someone do a better job. So this is just another reason why I think it's really important to attend these webinars, these classes as you can, so that if you can just learn even the basics, again, it'll make you a lot better suited to hire the right people, to check up on the work they're doing for you, and to give you a little bit more power and control in taking over the parts that you can do on your own. So with that, I apologize that our recording didn't work today and that I don't have the wonderful Q&A we did earlier for you all. But like I said, I am very happy to answer any questions you have. I know earlier some of the questions had to do with folks asking about various website platforms. I'm happy to talk through those. The main ones that we find people are happiest with seem to be WordPress and Squarespace. Squarespace being a lot more user-friendly if you have no experience. We also got asked quite a bit about Good Shuffle Pro, so I will go ahead and say, if you're not familiar with Good Shuffle Pro, we're an all-in-one software for event businesses, particularly businesses with inventory. So event rental, custom design and decor, florals, venues, DJs, you name it. If you do anything in the event space, we've got a unique software that's going to have you do everything from the sale all the way through the event execution, nice, neat, and organized in one platform. We do your billing, your invoicing, proposals, team collaboration, your inventory management to make sure you never double book anything, all of your tracking across your entire business operations. We've got you covered. So if you haven't checked us out yet, you should go ahead and shoot me an email or go to goodshufflepro.com/demo and sign up for a quick demo. We'd be happy to walk you through the platform, talk to you a little bit about your business and your business goals, and see if we might be the right fit to help you automate things, make things a lot smoother on your operations, and save you time and help you grow your business. And with that, thanks for tuning into the recording. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we'll be in touch soon.